Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost. I am your host, Joey McGee, aka Gojin the Makai Phantom, and joining me is Keizerzilla.
Hello there.
And Forgottenpharoh. And what we're going to look at today is the newest Batman movie. We're kind of a bit late on this train right here, I know, but it's still out, it's still in theaters, and there's still some people who hasn't seen it. Plus, there's a lot of things I want to discuss about the movie, and overall, if I was to say my thoughts on it, it's essentially a spiritual successor to the Nolan trilogy, aka The Dark Knight. And if you like those, you'll probably enjoy this. And so, anyway, I'll have Keizer go first.
No, it really feels like Christopher Nolan just said, fuck it, we're going to reboot Batman and let me direct it. And it really does feel like it's a Christopher Nolan movie, but it's not.
Exactly, that's why it's so good. Like, I'll go more into that later because there's a lot I have to say about the Christopher Nolan thing. But yes, there's a lot of things where it feels like there is a lot of Nolan-esque inspiration here. What do you think, Pharaoh?
I feel I see where you're getting that it's Nolan based, but it feels like something else entirely. Because with Nolan's movies, it still felt like comic book things going into it, but this one felt like I was reading a graphic novel where it had better cinematography to it. Where in a lot of Nolan's movies, I don't remember a lot of scenes, but I remember more dialogue.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But I feel like when it comes to this movie, they saw that the Dark Knight trilogy went for more of that detective, realistic crime thriller feel, and they were like, you know what? Let's bring that back here. Except they went even further with it, which some might like, some might be turned down by, and I completely get that.
Well, to be fair, Batman is supposed to be a detective, and we haven't gotten a detective Batman story yet. In all the live-action movies, Batman's either been just a superhero or a crime fighter, or a combination of the two. We haven't seen him going around doing detective-based things. Like, he's done some, like, oh, I have to go research this. There's a bunch of questions. I have to find out why the villain is doing this. But we see the villain as they're doing it. This one, we see Batman as a detective
trying to figure it out.
We don't see the villain's point of view completely until they're directly confronting each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. Though, if I was to say one thing about the story that I did like, the first beginning of the movie, when it starts, you know what you're getting into is a more darker take on Batman.
Oh, yeah.
And they make sure that unsettling tone is delivered right from the bat. And no pun intended. And I really did like that. Though I did have one question that hit on the beginning of the movie, and that's when these guys in this fucking watermelon and hell mask. I don't know why they chose a fucking watermelon, but whatever. They were able to walk in a store with no issue for some reason. How does that work? I get that this is Arkham, and Arkham is full of crime.
It was Halloween.
Yeah, and I get that it's Halloween, but pretty sure most stores isn't going to allow you to walk into somewhere having your face completely covered.
If it's Halloween if it's Halloween, everyone's wearing a mask. That's kind of a thing.
Okay, that is fair. That is fair.
Yeah, have you not dressed up for Halloween before?
Well, I have. Just I never walked into a store wearing a mask.
Yes, you have. We've been living in a pandemic. Everyone wore masks in a store.
I'm talking about Halloween masks, because those type of doctor masks don't really cover your entire face. It's just your mouth. The cameras could still identify you.
True, but maybe it's because I live in a different area where I see people and kids with big Halloween costume masks just going in full costume. Where it's like, yeah, that's the thing. I've gone to conventions where people have on their full suits with giant heads on, going into stores and ordering food.
That's fair, but not only should it be against the... Okay, but even on one thing, even if I was the manager, I saw someone wearing a ridiculous mask like that, I'd be like, hell no, you ain't coming in here wearing that shit. Put on something better. That's the thing. It's like, put on something better. Don't wear a fucking watermelon. You ain't wearing that tacky shit in here.
Yeah, I don't like that. It seems prejudiced to people with masks.
He could have put something better. Why go as a fucking watermelon?
Also in Gotham, weird stuff happens.
That is fair. Gotham is this very abnormal city, and the movie doesn't downplay that because there is a fuck ton of crime that goes on in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's honestly, that was one of the things I really liked, where it shows like, oh, the bat symbol isn't just for calling Batman. There's more in this movie that I really like. Like this felt like a film and a graphic novel.
Yeah, and
More in
another
this-
thing I do like about this movie is the handling of its theme of revenge. Like the theme of revenge bad that's a normal thing to tackle in media, but what matters is how it's handled. And generally is we see Batman go from this guy who just wants to get revenge. Even when someone asks him, "Who are you?" he says, "I am vengeance," instead of "I am
Right.
Batman." But
right.
that slowly changes when he sees someone, when he sees the savior he's brought upon, the savior and the hope he's brought upon the people of Gotham City,
Yeah.
and when he starts to see himself in another. Well, I'll go more into that later, but the revenge aspect is very well developed, I think.
I'm just gonna say I feel like the guy who played Riddler is up there with Heath Ledger's Joker because it was just ridiculously good.
He did a wonderful job as Riddler. And considering with the only other Riddlers we have were very, very cartoony, this felt like, yeah, this is graphic novel. I have big plans, Riddler. And I haven't
He did.
Like he's like I still have some issues with it, but yeah, I'll get into that later.
He looks like a psychopathic Bill Gates when he was young.
Well, that's what they were going for. They were going for like a Serial Killer 7 type of vibe.
Yeah.
And they got that down very well.
Yep.
Oh yeah, the Riddler was really good in the movie. At first, for a while, I was kind of mixed on him. I was like, that he had getting much screen time, but then when I just sat down and watched more, I liked him more because here's the thing: that when you think of the Riddler, you think of this guy in ridiculous ass costumes making riddles, but I was actually able to take him serious. He felt like if the Riddler was in the Nolan trilogy, and when he was brought back, I liked that they managed to make him more realistic, and not realistic in Godzilla 98 type of realism. Realism in the right way, where it felt like they took the terrorist aspect of him to a whole new level. He's doing the whole tricking people into thinking they're going to do negotiation with him. He's fucking crazy. And that's and as an aspect I did like about the Riddler is he's handled more like an actual terrorist.
Because he is.
Exactly, but when you think of the Riddler, you think of someone more goofy and over the top, which he is over the top in this movie, but not in a fun type of way, but more in the psychotic type of way, and that works. I feel like he kind of took inspiration from Ledger's Joker with his performance too.
Probably did.
Do you guys read the comics or no?
I haven't read much of the comics, to be honest, outside of the Batman versus Spider-Man one.
Okay, so no. What about you, Keizer?
No.
All right. So, I read enough comics to kind of get what they're going for, and I know which I could you could pinpoint which stories they were doing and they were using as a reference throughout the entire movie. And this felt like more similar to what Riddler has become over time, where he's more the methodic criminal. Where a lot of times Riddler tends to be, I'm smarter than you, and I want to prove that. This one, and that doesn't entirely fly in a realistic Batman movie, where they had to have a reason. Where it's like, I'm going to do all these riddles to prove I'm smarter than everybody. And this one's like, no, I'm going to leave these riddles for a reason because I want to change things. And they incorporated that really well while using stories from Year One, from Hush, with little nods to possible leads of Court of the Owls later. I'm kind of hoping it's actually really cool how they put it all together. I'm still sad we don't get some of the more comic book cartoony aspects of it. And I kind of missed that, but that's not this story. So for this story, this is probably the best iteration of what the Riddler should be.
Yes, because this one takes it more seriously, and generally, and the people watching should find themselves engaged because there's a type of relation to it. Like, stuff like this happens in real life, and they managed to take a character like the Riddler and put a realistic lens on him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something more of the general audience can appreciate, especially if you watch some of the more realistic stuff like the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
Now, a gripe I do have is with Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, and Alfred.
Vengeance.
First, I want to say, in any good Batman story, Bruce should have a good companionship with Alfred. But here, I find it to be a bit lacking because, yeah, you can tell he raised him. There is some conflict between the two. He cares about Bruce, but there's not much screen time revolving around him because as long as the movie is, there is a lot of stuff put into the plot, and for the most part it does it well, but there are some things that are half-baked, like the relationship with Alfred. So when stuff happens later on, it's not as effective because you don't feel as deep of a connection between the two characters.
Surprisingly, Bruce Wayne doesn't really play a factor into this movie.
Yeah, because that is something I did notice, is it's not really too big on Bruce's outside life. Where in the Dark Knight trilogy, despite being shorter, you kind of got that balance between Bruce and Batman.
That's because he doesn't care about being Bruce Wayne in this. He's not at that point yet.
Which is fine, but an issue I did have with that is when you're going to add some chemistry between the characters like Bruce and Alfred, it starts to feel underwhelming because it's still trying to get you to care. So when the Riddler goes around doing some really fucked up shit, it doesn't come as effective. Like, let's say if someone like the Riddler would have done something like that in a Nolan film.
You keep comparing it to the Nolan movies. Why?
Because when it comes to the Nolan films, that's really the best comparison I think I could make between this and any other Batman movie, because the tone's very similar. It has a heavy focus on the detective aspect. The villains have a more realistic lens on them, just like they would in the Nolan films.
That's what they've been doing in most movies. Well, yeah, in most like DC movies for a while, making the characters darker and more realistic, best they can.
Yeah, but with the DCEU, a lot of people wasn't really huge on that, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched much of the DCEU myself.
Nah, that's why.
Yeah, I have seen some like Man of Steel, but wasn't really big on it. But I'm still pretty sure the Dark Knight is kind of what started that trend, because before the Dark Knight, you had DC movies, and they like. Krista, like, I haven't seen the films related to film with Jack Nicholson before, but what I know about them...
You need to watch more Batman movies, jeez.
I plan to, yes.
Stop trying to make commentary videos and watch those old movies, because that'll give you much more, it'll give you much more perspective on the new movies. It really helps.
Yeah.
The 89 Batman movie changed comics and Batman lore so much that it actually made Batman relevant again, to actually set up all the cartoon series and these new movies.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my thing. But go ahead, you were saying.
Essentially, like I was saying, that's more of just an example than anything. I still feel like this probably had an inspiration on that film. I could be wrong, but even if it didn't, it still was an example that I cared about the relationship with Bruce and Alfred more in those. Well, here, though, I was fine with it. It still, I don't think, was focused on enough. But other than that, the scenes with them together, they were very well written and very well performed.
That's what matters.
Yeah, that's my thing, though. I've seen Bruce and Alfred get along very well in the old 89 movie, in all those follow-up sequels, in the Nolan trilogy. In all the cartoon series, in the animated series, in the Batman television series. We've seen that relationship. So I don't need a focus on it where it's just like, okay, yeah, that's part of the world now. This one doesn't actually go into the whole how Bruce Wayne became Batman. You know how he became Batman. So we're starting off this movie with the get-go of Batman is a thing, people are aware of it, and we're just going on that. We're not doing the origins. Like, no, you know how he started. You know who Alfred is. You know the dynamic between the two. That's there. set up, let's keep going to the main plot.
Well, I agree with you to an extent. Like, on the whole thing of not doing Batman's origins, yeah, that's fine, because, for example, I've been back to playing the Spider-Man game by Sony, and it doesn't do his backstory, which is perfectly fine, because we already see it multiple times. We don't need to see it again. But I think when it comes to a dynamic between two characters, it would be nice if it's going to be added to kind of dive into that, since it is a new universe you're diving into. So it's nice to get to know that universe's version of him more, rather than just caring by watching other materials. That's essentially my point here.
That's fair. I think they did well enough, just because as something that's literally in the background where you want to focus on Batman entirely, the moment he's the small moments of him being Bruce Wayne, I don't need the big dialogue or heart-to-hearts with them. It's like, okay, yeah, he's doing Batman things, and Alfred is has some animosity going for him, which is surprising. It's like they don't have a real good relationship between the two, and I found that really fascinating.
That's fair. That's fair. And for speaking, now back onto something positive. One thing I do like is Robert Pattinson's performance as the Batman himself. He does really good. Not only where he captures the feeling of being Bruce and Batman, which Bruce and Batman they've always been two different characters, and I like that. It's still present here, and when you're with Bruce Wayne, you can tell that, like I said, you don't see his past of how he's the way he is, but you didn't need to. Clearly, you are following a guy who has been through hell in his life for years and is kind of isolating himself away from the world. And Robert Pattinson delivers that. You see a man that's certainly feeling down, and
you see an emo Bruce.
Yeah, but it worked. It worked.
Bully Maguire.
Yeah.
No, Bully Maguire at least was he was cocky and funny to watch.
Well, he had like the emo hair like the Bully Maguire did, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that yeah. Like, I'll give you that. I can't give you that because there's very little Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is just wanting to be Batman at this point. So it's like, all right, he's Bruce, and he's just depressed. Like, he's not happy being Bruce Wayne. He just wants to be vengeance.
But when you see him as Bruce Wayne, but when you see him as the Batman, another thing I do like is he has a bit of that exaggerated voice to hide his identity as Batman, but it's not to the point of straight up demonic like Christian Bale. And I love Christian Bale as the Batman.
Batman.
But I can see why some people found it comedic. But here he goes it where he does it in a way where it could hide his voice. It's somewhere in between human and monster.
It's subtle. And you know what? It's more than just his voice. In his first scene where you see him, it's done so well. The entire first scene of seeing Gotham City, the signals in the sky, criminals are looking in the shadows, getting scared, thinking he's there. Some of those criminals immediately stop doing their crimes just thinking he's in the shadows. And when he comes out of the shadows, you hear him stomping his boots and it's emerging like, wow, that's intimidating.
Exactly.
No flashy gimmicks. That's just really intimidating.
Speaking of the fear of Bruce, that's another thing I really loved in this movie. Because the villains, they're scared of Bruce. And the soundtrack, it plays off well. When I first watched the movie, when I heard the soundtrack, it's like, come on, this is not a horror movie. But then one of my brothers kind of explained why it worked, and I've grown an appreciation towards the darker soundtrack, because what it's trying to do is when the Batman, for example, like on a certain scene later on where he's walking out of a fire with a fire behind him, you can tell by the way that villain's face is going, he's scared, and it has this horror-like music to be like, oh shit, he's gonna get you. He's gonna fucking get you. They made Batman into a fucking slasher villain, and I like that. I can think of.
He kind of always has been like that to me.
Yeah, but this one goes even further with its soundtrack by giving a horror-type music to kind of give off the presence that these people are afraid of him. Batman is a lot more stronger than them, and they have every reason to be frightened of this man.
Yeah. Like, when you see him fight, it's like, wow, he's beating these people down. And not like, I'm going to incapacitate them. It's like, no, I am going to beat them into the ground. I'm like, wow, that's...
Beat him to the point to where They don't kill him, but cripple him.
Yeah. Like,
The
it
only
feels like,
thing
dude, this guy's down already. You could stop.
Yeah,
Like,
and it works for his personality too, because for the vast majority of the movie, he doesn't care. He's just doing it for vengeance.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why he is so ruthless.
Yeah, like, he's scaring the people he's helping, and I'm glad it's in there and it's set up early, but he doesn't really do much about it. He's like, this is what I need to do to make things better. It's like, you are terrifying people, sir.
Yes, yes. And that's one of the reasons why it worked. And I don't know if there's anything else where people are actually scared of Batman. Like, he's been seen as the criminal by other people in other pieces of media, but not in a way like when he's around, people are fucking shaking in their boots just by his presence. Like, this is some Doomslayer shit right here. And I really enjoyed seeing that. The movie just played it off in a very unique way. I'm not sure if that was ever brought into the comics, but in terms of the adaptations we have seen in fucking years, TV shows, movies that I've watched, this is new to me.
Yes, Batman, like, the reason why Batman dresses up as a bat is to scare criminals. And a lot of the movies, it doesn't really get that across very well. But in the comics, a lot of times, he is skulking in the background. He is scaring the criminals to make sure they stop what they're doing or to give him what he wants. There's a great moment in it was in Justice League? Fuck, what was it? Yeah, it was in Justice League where... I'm sorry. It was in Justice League where Superman's trying to interrogate somebody, and the criminal's like, "No, like, you're a boy, like, you're the Boy Scout. You're not gonna hurt me." Batman's like, "Give him to me." It's like, "What? Give him to me." He walks over. 5 seconds later, dude's spilling out everything. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. It's like, anything else? I'm like, I'm in my bed until I was 16, losing my patience. Like, oh my god.
Yeah,
like,
that's the whole thing.
Supposed to scare criminals, and they did an excellent job with it. In comics, they can do that a lot more because you can have the artist play into that. It's like, hey, make this panel look scary. And artists love to do that. They're like, oh, I'm going to put spikes on it. I'm going to make it look terrifying. Especially when it comes to Scarecrow type weapon. Especially when it comes to Scarecrow comics, you get to go extra in on psychedelic scary.
Yep.
It's like, like I said, watching this felt like it was a graphic novel because there are multiple scenes where you just watch the character moving. It's like, this feels like a page from a graphic novel that's intense as you read it.
Exactly. And the movie is overall just very unique about that. Though, if there's one thing I would say when the music did feel misplaced, it's one scene. Every other time the music works perfectly, but it's when he's battling Catwoman and it plays the dark music. Like, it just felt off on that particular scene to me, mainly because it's an action scene. On an action scene, you're not supposed to feel something like that. I never really got the vibe that Catwoman was scared of the Batman. At least that's not the vibe I got, so it felt out of place. Though a few minutes...
Yeah, true.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Though a few minutes later, it does kind of make up for that, where he's hiding with her from security. It plays this mysterious type of music to kind of bring tension. But the few minutes before that, when he's fighting Catwoman, the horror type music feels out of place to me because every other people, like the Penguin, Riddler, I don't care. Everyone else is scared of the Batman. Her. No, I never got that vibe.
What do y'all think of Penguin in this movie?
Penguin was really good. Like, when it comes to, like, here's the thing. When you look at his face, I see what the actor looks like in real life. He looks normal. So the makeup guy, the people in the makeup department did their job at kind of giving him this overall fucked up look on his overall design. And the actor did a great performance with it, as the Penguin is supposed to be this classy, intelligent type of criminal. And the actor, I think, portrayed into that well, as he gives a performance that complements that. What I was looking at felt like the Penguin, but not in a goofy comedic way. They were able to be accurate to the source material while being serious.
I forgot who it was. I think it might have been the guy who played Gordon, but one of the actors didn't recognize him at all when he came out as a Penguin with the makeup on and all that.
Like, if you see a photo of him, he doesn't look like himself anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what that stuff we can do today.
Y'all. I'll give it to you. That was he was a really good portrayal. My only thing is he doesn't use an umbrella weapon, and I'm saddened by that. And I get it, realistic. It wouldn't make sense for this movie if you just pulled out an umbrella gun or knife. I just would have liked it.
Considering he's going to be still around, probably even more in the movie.
He's
might see
getting his
something
own
like that.
television series apparently, so it might show up there. But I'm like, I kind of miss those things because I guess I'm tired of those super serious Batman stories. I still like this, but sometimes I'm tired of them, which is why I'm rewatching the Batman cartoon series and the animated series. I'm like, I kind of miss the goofy things where like Joker would throw playing cards, and he would laugh while killing somebody, or he would tell a joke while killing somebody. Or, Penguin just pulls out a machine gun, umbrella that's like a flamethrower. Like, I miss those little things.
That's fair. But one of the things I did, but I just really enjoyed how they handled the Penguin, because I never seen the Penguin handled like this before. The most serious portrayal I seen of him was as Gotham when I was a kid, but that wasn't as accurate to the source material, at least.
Oh, sir, you need to watch Batman Returns.
Yeah, I need to, I know. But Penguin here, he's classy. You get the vibe that he knows who Batman is as a vigilante, but at the same time, he keeps it chill around him in no way. He keeps it chill around him, in no way affecting a somewhat psychotic vibe he's got. Because he is psychotic, and you do get that vibe around him, but it's a mix of psychotic and classy where he's able to be chill around Batman. Because he knows who he is, and that's something I did appreciate.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of as that's what I think of when I think of Penguin as a character, someone who is somewhat cunning, but at the same time classy.
Yeah.
He was like that in the animated series, and he was like that in the other bits I got of him as a character, and he was like that here, which I did like.
Penguin is he's either portrayed as a sophisticated criminal or someone who wants to be sophisticated, but he's also a giant slob.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's him in this movie.
Mm-hmm. He did an amazing job at it. I'm like, wow, I see how and why he's getting his own television series. He does really well as a crime boss. I even get to see the Iceberg Lounge, which I was very happy to see. I don't think I've entirely seen that in a movie yet.
No, we get it right here. We get it right here.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. That's like this is the place he's always at, and this is the crime it gets trafficked through. Like, that's cool to see.
I love how he acts like nothing's really bad happening. He's just like, whoa, what's going on when he first shows up?
Yeah, the bottom is funny. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? But yeah, he plays it out like a businessman.
Yep.
Which I almost forgot, but I also really liked the dynamic between Catwoman and was it Catwoman or no? Yeah, it was Catwoman. Catwoman. It's been a bit since I watched the movie. I only have my notes to rely on to get my memory still going.
I watched it the first weekend it came out, so I'm just going by what I remember.
Catwoman and Bruce Wayne. The dynamic between Catwoman and the Batman, I found to be really intriguing and heartwarming. Yep. At first, they are kind of just working with each other because they have to, but there's really no massive connection. But more they work together, you really start to slowly see their attachment gradually grow throughout the script. And there was a big focus on that in this movie. And there's some points where it's straight up hard-hitting. I won't go into that soon because there's this one particular scene I will talk about, and that is a spoilery moment that kind of makes you see, in terms of Bruce's perspective, like, ouch. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Not really. This whole movie felt like, all right, I'm glad I get to see both of you two together, but I know enough about Catwoman to realize she's going to do what she wants. That is what Catwoman is. While Batman's trying to uphold some moral code, Catwoman's like, I'm doing what I want specifically. As long as I want it. I will help you if it helps me. I will help the villains if it helps me. Either way, I'm getting what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's the end of the spoiler-free section. Then we'll go on to the spoilers. So what's our final verdicts before moving on to the spoilers? I'm going to give it an 8. I thought it was a great movie. If you enjoy the Nolan stuff that went for the very serious, super serious approach with detective stuff going on and all that crazy shit, I think you'll like this. I still prefer the Nolan trilogy, but overall, this one, in my personal opinion, this one still did it very well.
Mm-hmm. Keizer?
I'm gonna say it's at least a 9, maybe between 9 and a 10 for me. I think it's the best Batman movie besides The Dark Knight.
It's definitely up there.
That's fair. What was it? I would give it an 8.5, almost 9. I really liked it. I finally get to see a detective Batman series, which I've wanted for so long. When I was reading growing up reading comics, that's what I always liked seeing, Batman being a detective. The ninja parts are cool, but I like detective. I love him strategizing and learning and piecing together the villain's plot. And we finally get that in this.
That's what separates Batman from other heroes, is he's that balance between a detective story and some of the more cheesy comic book style superheroes. That's what makes him unique.
Not to mention, he has no fucks to give going against people, even if it's somebody like godlike beings or Superman or Darkseid.
Carolee said in the chat, hey. Hello, Carolee.
Hello.
Nice having you.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. The atmosphere was really good. It actually got me to realize what type of Batman stories I like, and actually go back to watch some of the old Batman cartoon shows. Be like, wow, I missed this series.
Yeah, it also kind of gave me the urge to kind of replay the Arkham games because those were really good. It's one of the reasons why I really like Mark Hamill as the Joker, and I forgot that actor's name who played Batman in those games and the animated series, but he's also up there as one of the best Batmans.
Yeah, what's his name? Kevin Conroy for Batman?
Yeah, Kevin Conroy. Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing that reminds you why you loved him so much, because he had all of that balance. Only thing that really affects his Batman, I think, is he uses the same voice as he does as Bruce Wayne, but at the same time, most heroes don't change their voices, so I can't really pick it apart too much.
Again, you need to rewatch the animated series because he doesn't.
Yeah, the animated series is great. I still don't know what I like better, the animated series or Beyond. Carolee said 2 things. Batman is the best detective, always has been. Damn right. Next thing was awesome games. Exactly. I really love those games. The Scarecrow in Batman Arkham Asylum is one of my favorite versions of the Scarecrow ever, in my personal opinion. He's really creepy. He does all this very imaginative shit that no other version of the Scarecrow has done. And I just really like that version of the Scarecrow, the voice and everything.
It was really good. Scarecrow in the Arkham games is really fun. It's a psychedelic acid trip, basically.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Scarecrow's moves are something... You could do a lot of stuff with what his gimmick is as a villain, and that is fear. And those games took advantage of that.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on to the spoiler section. As I was saying with the whole thing with Catwoman and the Batman, one of the things that I really liked when they went on is you have this sort of irony thing there, like when she's up to Bruce Wayne, telling him that we need to stop these rich, white, privileged men. It's like that. At first when I was watching it, I was like, oh, that's a bit cringe. They're going woke here. But then I was remembering it's like, actually, there's irony to this scene. And the whole thing is Bruce is both of that. He's rich and he's white. And when she said that, you kind of get more of an ouch feeling around him because he was everything she mentioned. And that's something I really did enjoy. And I know some people were bitching about that scene, but they missed the irony of it. And that's one of the things that made it very beautiful, is because you had this relationship to build between the two that made their feelings for each other grow. But then she came out somewhere and said that, which was a big ouch for Bruce.
Oh, wait, which line again? I just realized it was snowing and I got confused.
Essentially, I'm talking about that scene where Catwoman went up to the Batman and told her that we need to stop these rich white privileged men, or these rich white privileged older men, some shit like that. There was irony there because Bruce is both of them, and that's one of the things that made that scene very powerful. Is because it's an ouch moment in terms of Bruce's case, because she thinks he's one of them, one of the people that are not.
He is. She actually calls him out, saying, "You were born with money, weren't you? Like you were born rich, weren't you?"
Yeah, but she thinks that at first. But when but on that scene, she's kind of convinced that he's one of them, being that he wasn't rich from the beginning, and
no, he was.
Yeah,
it was actually I remember it was during an argument on the rooftop where she has the person who kidnapped her friend, and Batman saying, and Vengeance is saying that her friend made a choice, and now she has to pay, and she paid the consequences for it. And it's like, you were born rich, weren't you? Because
I know, but
you don't know what it's like to be desperate and make choices you don't want to make to survive.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, that was somewhere after that scene, and that was when their connection was really starting to grow. Maybe I'm remembering the movie wrong because all I have to rely on is my notes.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, that was after that scene when she told Bruce that.
She always kind of figured there's something off about him, but I liked how she calls him out. And yeah, Bruce Wayne doesn't really have the same leg to stand on as everybody else. He's coming at all these problems from someone who has money and uses money and violence to solve his problems. It's funny enough, I'll give you this. The Nolan trilogy did, Batman Begins specifically, did a really good scene where Bruce went to Falcone and he's about to point, and he wants to confront him. And Falcone's like, what are you coming down here with all this anger? Just because your mommy and your daddy got shot, you know, the ugly side of life? You don't. You need to go 1,000 miles away where nobody knows your name to really understand what a criminal's like.
Yeah, that scene in Batman Begins is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you did mention something that I really want to touch on. Falcone in this movie. I think he was underused in this film because you don't, at least from memory, you don't really get much of a connection between him as a person. He's kind of just there. Like, he moves the plot along. He has a connection to how they find out about.
I mean, for crying out loud, he's the fucking father of Catwoman in this movie.
Yeah, he has a reason to be there, but
he's basically the reason why Bruce's parents died.
Yeah, it's unofficial. That was left vague, and I like that.
Yeah, but the thing about Falcone as a character here, there's not much you could say about him as a character. He's more of a plot device than anything.
All right, I got a question for you then. How would you describe Falcone as a character?
In this particular movie...
No, just in general.
In general, honestly, don't really have much to go off of, because I've seen him... Was he in any other material? Was he in a Batman the Animated Series?
I'm going through it now, so I'm in season 1, and so far there's a couple of mob bosses, but I don't think I've seen Falcone specifically.
Yeah, I don't think he's in. I think the only thing I have with Falcone is in the Dark Knight trilogy, which I admit he didn't do much there either. But again, just because another thing has that issue, I think it's still something that does make it where when you're watching it as a movie, like, let's judge this as a movie with forgetting the other things that Batman exists. When you're watching him, you don't really think of Falcone as his own thing. He just moves the plot along. At least that's what I thought when I was watching the movie.
Okay.
He's a plot device, I think. The actor does an incredible job. He's cunning. You can tell he's a big threat. But when it comes to his character, what can you really say about him other than moving the plot along?
He's a mob boss. That's all I need to know. I don't need a backstory on him. I don't need to know how he built up his criminal empire. It's like, okay, then you're the man in charge of this mob organization. Okay.
Well, I'm fine with not everything being told to me. Like, let's talk about Heath Ledger's Joker for a bit. Like,
I thought you just said don't bring up other things.
Well, in this case,
you said, and then you immediately break.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm bringing this guy up as an example, not because it's another Batman movie, but an example that you could do. You don't have to tell everyone everything, but you could still make them interesting. Like Heath Ledger's Joker, what made him good, you didn't know anything about him, but that was the point. He was supposed to be this very mysterious psychopath that you don't even know the real name of. But what made him so good is you didn't know much about him. He was a mysterious psychopath going around just doing about everything. Even his origin that he was telling to everyone on how he got them scars.
You're comparing an A villain to a C tier mob boss.
That is true. You're
putting more emphasis. Like you're trying to do you want a movie based on Falcone? Because this movie has 3 villains going to it. Riddler's basically the primary villain. Penguin's like a secondary, tertiary villain, and then there's Falcone in the second middle half of things.
Yeah, but I think where an issue lies is it should have. I know the movie's already very long, but I think to bring in everything that it had properly, it should have been a little longer. I'm not talking about 4 hours, but
I would have said shorter.
Yeah, I think it needed to be a bit longer if it wanted to fit all that in. Like, I love Spider-Man 3, but that movie should have been longer for all the villains they had in that movie.
I would have said shorter and cut some things. Like, you can cut a few things from this movie. I don't know. I'm not great at cinematography, but I'm like, you know what? I was able to enjoy it either way. So I would say the last half of things, even though cinematography-wise, it was very, very well, and it had a reason for it. It felt a little weird once Riddler was gone.
Yeah. But, okay, now here's the last gripe I have with this movie. This is the one last gripe. Again, this is a great movie, but there are some gripes, like, with everything. And one last gripe I do have is he changed, like, I get around the villains, he changes his voice. That's cool and all. But the villains, they don't know who he is. But when he's around the detectives, he does not change his voice, like, at all. And I noticed that. Like, there's points where he changes his voice, but it's inconsistent because sometimes he's around the detectives, he's using his Batman voice. Other times he's around the detectives, he's talking as Bruce Wayne. It makes no sense. It's not consistent. And you wonder why he's even hiding his voice to begin with around them. Because I get the criminals don't know who he is, but neither do the detectives. So if you're trying to hide your identity, dude, you gotta be consistent. Huh?
Maybe it's inconsistency.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne. Like, he doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne. That's the whole movie. And when he is Bruce Wayne, he looks uncomfortable. It's like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm outside of my suit. I don't like this. He shies away from the light so often just because he feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I did like that because when you know Batman as a character and his origin, it's understandable why he would be so fucked up. And this is different from other incarnations, which I liked because I don't want to, unlike some fans, I don't want to see the same story told to me over and over and over again. In something like Bale's movies, he had to put on this persona of acting more confident, which it worked. But here, you felt like every time he was on that this was a guy who has a fucked up past and is trying to cope with it. He's depressed. He doesn't like being him. And I enjoyed that. And for speaking of Bruce Wayne, we got to talk about his character change. It's really good here. For a while, he's just calling himself Vengeance. Like when the people asked him, "Who are you?" I thought he was going to say he's Batman.
But that's the iconic line.
Yeah, but he said he's Vengeance, which is cool and all. And I liked that. And he grew as a character eventually because because for a while he was just doing all this shit just to get revenge. He didn't care about the people he saved. He didn't care about any of that.
It's catharsis.
But when he saw the hope he brought onto the people of Gotham City, and that one of the villains pretty much said the exact line he did by going, "I'm Vengeance." He kind of saw in himself that, wait, I'm no better than these people.
Like, oh crap! I'm the problem. I'm the problem.
Yeah, because he was driven by the same thing.
It was one of Riddler's goons who said that.
Yeah, he was driven by one. He was driven by the same thing as them, and then he also saw that the hope he brought onto Gotham City. Everyone saw him as this savior, so that really drove. In a way, it kind of serves as an origin story, and not the typical origin story of like, oh, this is Bruce Wayne before he became Batman, but an origin story in the way that that you see him become a hero, because through the most of the movie, he's not a hero. He's just out getting his revenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
I promise, I'm letting you go. I agree with you. Yeah. Just that third act is a little surprising. Like, in one hand, I like the action of it all. In the other hand, the main problem is over, and now we just got to deal with this, and that's another like 20 minutes of the movie. I'm like, oh, it seems like we could be done now.
I still think it needed to be a bit. Me and you have opposite opinions on the running time. I think it needed to be a bit longer to fit in all the villains it wanted to. You think it should have been shorter. I think it has something what I'm going to call Blade of the Immortal syndrome. If you haven't seen the Blade of the Immortal movie, it's a great movie by Takashi Miike based on the manga. And overall, the pacing of that film is great, but there are some things that are crammed in the 2 hour and some runtime to just put it in a movie. And same goes for this. It overall is a very well-paced film, but there are some things that you could tell that are just shoved into this almost 3 hour runtime that would have worked better if either put in a separate movie or made longer.
Yeah.
Carolee said he doesn't want to be himself. That's why he created the Batman. It's his coping mechanism. Exactly. And this film really played that well, because like we all stated, when he's being Bruce, it's clear that he doesn't like being himself. It's the way he performs it, and even his appearance, he doesn't look happy.
No.
He looks like a complete mess, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when you look at Bruce, he looks happy, confident, wealthy, which, yeah, that's an act, but it was refreshing to see a take that was more honest with everyone.
I feel like that's where they can leave off in sequels.
Yeah, where he starts to try to play off the more confident, wealthy Bruce.
Yeah, he's like, maybe then he starts realizing, okay, then I need to start taking care of things with my father's company. I need to actually have a real life persona, so it gets people aware. Or maybe completely change it, where instead of Bruce Wayne being the party boy, you get to see him like, okay, then he sees how corrupt everything is. So as Bruce Wayne, he can make a positive change in a real way. Instead of Batman beating people up, it's like, hey, I can actually help change the political environment. I can change the housing issues. I can stop the drug things by finding suppliers and cutting them off legally. Instead of Batman by just beating everybody up.
Carolee said, does it feel rushed? I don't want to say it feels rushed. For the most part, the pacing is really good. It's able to fit in a lot of those subplots. It did very well, where I was just sitting in my seat in the theater, wanting to see what happens next. It's overall moves at a good pace, just since there are 3 big villains in the movie, there are some things that are a bit underdeveloped, but for the most part, it moves very well. I wouldn't call it a crammed film at all. There's crammed things, but overall, how it's written is very well. They fit most of what they could into that script.
Like I said, I wouldn't say that it needs to be longer because I'd get tired, but it feels like I had enough. It's like, all right, yeah, that's Penguin. That's what he's doing. I don't need your backstory or anything. It's like, all right, here's Falcone. Here's his thing. I don't need backstory on that. I was like, yeah, I just need to know these people are in the world and they're active in the story. I'm like, all right, yeah, they're active in the story, and I was fine with it.
That scene when they were interrogating him about that one Blarada thing or whatever, and he starts roasting them because they were saying it wrong, was fucking hilarious.
I'm surprised basic Spanish became a plot point.
Well, the thing is with the Penguin, he didn't need any more about him. Neither did the Riddler. They were all great. It's Falcone that I kind of had the issue with, of kind of just being there.
You know what? Wait, come up with an idea for how you develop Falcone more, and by all means, let's see, and pitch it to us. That could be a whole other stream. Pitch how would you fix
probably could
characters?
Probably.
I did mention that I was going to probably start doing podcasts, so there you go.
Yeah. Carolee also said he could do a lot more with his money, but beating people up mass fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not that but the thing is, I feel like when you have a character that's important to the plot, which he is, it's nice that when you're able to kind of get engaged into that person. I don't know how I would have improved it, at least right here in the moment. I'm sure I could think of something later, but I just feel like when you are a plot device and nothing else, it kind of feels, It makes it where his relationship with the Catwoman is not as investing as it could have been, other than that he beat her mom and shit like that.
Yeah, true.
And even killed her.
Yeah, the vile shit he's done, but at the same time, you don't really get to get too much into it, other than a few brief mentions and the Catwoman's overall motive. Like, for example, if let's say. Let's compare this to real life for a minute. Like, someone, they say, oh yeah, there's this guy, he killed my fucking mother. You're not going to be invested in that person's motive to kill that person because you know nothing about that person she's wanting to kill.
Yeah. I'm not seeing your point. Because that's what the movie did. Like, you're invested in Catwoman's point in the movie. Why? Because of what happened, what Falcone did to her. I'm not understanding what you're trying to aim at.
What I'm getting at is he's a plot device.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I got nothing there.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
He's the conflict for Catwoman, essentially. And also a little bit of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, because essentially what I'm getting at here is his only importance is not himself as a character. His only benefit is Catwoman's character, not his own.
But that's the thing. Falcone's always been a plot point. He's a mob boss that has ties to everybody. Whenever there's something wrong that you don't want to use one of the big villains, Falcone's a part of it.
I guess you got a point there. I can't argue against that. You make a good point there.
Yeah, there's so many times where it's like, all right, so we can't use Penguin too many times, or we need more mob bosses to have this issue. Falcone, let's throw him in there. Why? Because he has ties to everybody. It's easier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why I was like, I didn't mind, because this plays out as it needs to. There's a mob boss. I don't care how he became a mob boss. He is a mob boss. He probably did horrible things to get into that position. That's what every mob boss has done. I don't need the backstory on that. I get he plays a role for Catwoman as well as Riddler in several other points. So he's kind of pivotal in a lot of things.
That is true. And for speaking of plot devices, Riddler's overall a really good character because Riddler displays a similarity to someone like Heath Ledger's Joker, and I see why Aaron compares him to Heath Ledger's Joker because not only is he crazy in a way that's both fun and intimidating, he's also mysterious. And what made that so good is not only is he more intimidating when he's on screen, you want to know more about him as a character. And when you're going through the mystery with Bruce Wayne on finding out who he is, especially when you see where Bruce is kind of put as his next target, you're like, wow, let's find out this shit. And then when they find out more about the Riddler, he kind of gives off his motive to the Batman, as he kind of admired the Batman, if memory served me right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he actually said that he thought the Batman was working with him.
I love
exactly.
That. I thought that was so cool. Where it's like, yeah, we were working together, right? It's like, I can't get to them because I'm not strong enough, but I can leave you the evidence for you to figure it out. I thought you got this. I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, that's really good.
What you feel like you're watching when he's on screen is this. He feels fucking real, okay? Because what you feel like you're watching is an actual fucking detective camera of someone interrogating a psychopath. Because whenever he's on, he felt like someone who's not there. And in a way, it's terrifying. And that's supposed to... Huh?
And he sat there and kept fucking with us thinking he knew who Bruce Wayne is. And he possibly does. He's just acting like he doesn't.
Good.
Yeah, he is super fucking manipulative in all the right ways.
That played off so well. In the last scene of them together, Riddler and Batman are talking, and the whole time he keeps saying Bruce Wayne. And you think that he knows Batman's Bruce Wayne. And throughout most of that dialogue, Batman thinks like, oh shit, he knows who I am. And he doesn't give anything away. His eyes just kind of open up like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Then Riddler admits he doesn't know, and Batman's like, just sighs, and goes right back to Batman mode. He's like, oh shit. Okay, it doesn't know. Okay, back to focusing.
He might actually know. He just acted like it.
Yep, like that whole thing right there. But like when I was watching the movie in the theater, and whenever something like that would happen, I was very invested because the thing is, you don't know, and the movie never lets you know. You're as in the dark as Bruce Wayne is, and I think any good movie does that, where you kind of feel what the character is feeling. You feel this suspense and paranoia that is building up.
And then you find out what he really was doing. It was like, oh shit, he ends up fucking the whole city up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of where my third act thing. I'm like, do we? I guess we need this because it's a movie, but at the same time, it's like the main Riddler's dealt with. Why does this need to happen? I get that is a very Riddler thing. Of I had a contingency plan for everything, and in year one, that's what happens. Riddler floods the city. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. No, not year one. Year zero? I don't remember. But I just know in the New 52, Riddler takes over Gotham and floods it. And it's like, okay, I get we need the big action scene, but and by all means, it was a cool action scene. It had a lot of good shots to it that showed Batman has to grow as a character. But at the same time, it's like I'm not feeling anything out of this because the main villain's already dealt with. These are just his jobbers. These are just the henchmen.
I had no issue with that at all, but I do see what you mean there completely.
Yeah, like if Riddler was still a part of that somewhere, it's like, all right, he's here. We got to get through the henchmen to get to him. It's like, no, these are just his lackeys. Although they did find a way to make lackeys a real thing, which always found me fun. It's like, who would work for supervillains aside from very, very desperate criminals? These, like, Riddler was online with a little public forum like this, and he was asking people, it's like, hey, how do you make masks? How do you make bombs? What are the best type of guns to use? And he rallied a bunch of people together to dress up as him. Like, wow.
You think they would have found out about that and killed him? Or caught him doing that before this even happened?
I found that funny. It's like, you explained henchmen. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and something I forgot I could have went into this in the non-spoiler section, but it slipped my mind. But the Batman suit I thought was awesome. At first, when I watched the trailers and I saw the actor in it, I was like, it looks a bit when I saw him. But watching it in action, Robert Pattinson looks really cool in the suit. It's unique. It's unique while still looking like Batman. It's armored and it has an intimidating presence to it.
Yeah.
To be honest, it don't really take that much to do a decent Batman suit. Just have it look cool and armored, and there you go.
Yep, but it's nice that they also made it stand out as its own thing instead of just copying, pasting another.
I mean, obviously change it up to where it's not like a copy and paste, but
exactly, it's unique. Which, granted, most of them are. But what I like about this design is it's cool. When I first saw it in the trailers, I think a lot of people were kind of mixed on it, just like I was. But when you see it in action, it's actually pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah. Like, I was curious how it functioned, but it's like, wow, it actually functions like a full suit. It's like, I like this.
Yeah.
I was also curious how the batarangs were going to work on the chest. I'm like, oh, he just takes them off and uses them. Noted.
Carrie Lee commented, Falcone family has been running Gotham for generations.
Yeah.
Carmine has just born into the right family. No backstory needed. That is fair. That is fair. You are correct there. Not everyone needs a backstory. So you do got a point. How did John T do it? And how did John T do in that role? And Falcone, that's the actor's name, John T, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he did great. Like,
yeah.
even if I was critical, like I said before, when he's on, you see someone who takes his business seriously, but he clearly has a dark past going for him, and he's not someone to fuck with.
But yeah, he was fun. You know what? He's usually fun in his roles, so.
Oh, he is. I watched a movie with him recently. The film had, I forgot the actor's name.
John Toretto?
Huh? Oh, no. It was, the film was a thriller movie. It had Johnny Depp. The movie with him, and I watched that recently.
I don't know what that
is. Sure what you're talking about. Why the fuck is it snowing?
But yeah, John T did incredible in the movie.
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, acting-wise, everyone was phenomenal. Batman was great, Catwoman was great, Andy Serkis, his Alfred was wonderful. The acting on this was really good. I can't fault anyone for anything in this. Like, y'all did so well. It's like, I believe these characters are the characters you're portraying.
We should probably talk about Gordon.
Oh, Captain Gordon. I keep forgetting about Gordon. But you know
what? Yeah, Captain Gordon.
Wonderful.
Yeah, like a thing to every Batman story. The thing with he always has a relationship with Captain Gordon, and that is still left intact here. You get more. You don't get the vibe that they are just working together. You get the vibe that these guys are kind of like buddy cops in a way, just not in a goofy comedic way. And it worked. You actually get the trust built between Gordon and Batman as they work together. Huh?
I'm agreeing with you. It was fun seeing them together where Gordon was like participating in some of the raids and helping Batman solve the riddles. Like, oh, it's fun seeing them together with this.
Yeah, like they were pretty much that is something
even helped stage Batman escape.
Yeah.
Exactly. He played a very important role in the story.
He got punched in the he was saying, "You're gonna punch me not as hard, man." And Batman was like,
I did.
No, I was doing it.
Like that was good. It's like that is for a very serious movie, there's interesting moments of comedy in this.
Yeah. And it came at the right place because this is overall a dark film. And so obviously when a moment like that needs to come out, it needs to come out at the proper timing where it doesn't kill any seriousness it had. And it did. It felt realistic. And that's something I like when a serious, dark movie has comedic aspects. Because in real life, no matter how serious shit may get, somewhere and sometime, a joke is going to come into play from someone. But it has to feel realistic, and it did. It didn't really harm the moment. The tone was left intact. It was able to go back to whatever serious aspect of the story was doing in proper manner without anything being taken away from, and it was funny.
Yeah, I'll give it to it. It's like, it's not overtly funny like what Marvel does, where sometimes they'll use comedy to undercut the tense moment. But it's like, no, every scene had a moment where it's like you can feel you can feel what they're trying to portray, and then they move on with it.
Yeah. Carolee said, who would work for villains? Poor people, like you said. Desperation. Exactly.
Yeah. And that I like they really do touch on that, because that's something that you don't really deal with in Batman stories. Or they never touch up upon it. It's like you get Batman beating up the henchmen. It's like, these people need jobs. Gotham's a terrible place to live. But that brings up why anyone lives in Gotham City.
Exactly. Gotham City is essentially like somewhere in real life like Detroit, where it's full of crime and villains amongst other fucked up shit.
Yeah, although apparently they have a really good educational system, because most of their supervillains have doctorates.
JSP said, I thought the movie was okay. I do think it's very slow-paced, though, and it could have been. I think everyone did a good job. Something surprised me as Falcone. I actually like the slow pace, because what you're watching, JSP, is a crime thriller, and every movie like that takes its time to develop their story, and that was important for this movie, because to kind of unveil the mysteries to us, it needed time to slowly build on them to get you invested. Rather than just establishing a certain thing and then automatically telling us what it means. It gave us time for us to really consume what we were watching. Of course, it's slow, but that's kind of the point when you're watching a movie like this. It's kind of like, for example, like being a Godzilla nerd that I am, like Gojira, that's slow-paced, but it was supposed to be slow-paced to really get you into the world of how the Japanese felt during the Hiroshima bombing and the people that were involved with it, like Robert Oppenheimer, to get you feeling sympathy for it, the fear of trying to stop it and improve from it.
It's storytelling. It allows the emotions to build up over time with the characters. So when the big reveals or the big hits happen, they feel that much more impactful.
Exactly. That's where long runtimes like this are important. Not every movie needs it, but something like this, I think, earned its long runtime because it's a crime thriller.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
7. Like, it
and
is
that's not
the movie 7 with Batman.
Yeah, what you're looking at, like, here's the thing. When it comes to complex stories, they generally need to be on the longer side of things, like this one. When it comes to something more simplistic, it could be on the shorter side of things. It depends on the type of story you're telling.
Mm-hmm.
What we're looking at is a story that's relied heavily on mystery and suspense, therefore requiring...
And yeah, by all means, they played into that really well. I really like that Riddler had little action.
JSP said, "Oh please, Gogeta wasn't that slow paced." It was though, and that's not a problem. That's one of the things that made Gogeta so good was it was slow paced. You had time to really get sucked into that world of darkness and feeling sympathy for the people around it and the fear of what war can do to people. It wasn't as slow paced as this, since that isn't even 2 hours, but it was still on a pace. While if you compare it to something like the King Kong movie as more of a action blockbuster, it's different. It's all a matter of what the story is telling on what the pace is going to be.
My cat's meowing at me. Yeah, like I said, I still really enjoyed this just because Riddler had the little riddles going for him. Riddles that you can actually solve.
Exactly, and you were solving them with the Batman.
Yeah. You know what? That's what I wanted in a Detective Batman movie. I wanted to see Riddler leaving little clues that you could try to solve as the movie went on. Like, all right, I know the small riddles. I don't know what some of them mean or add up to. But then there's someone that's like, there's no way I would have figured that one out. I'm glad someone else could have figured that out.
Yep. Oh, man, I'm looking at my notes to see if there's anything else I have to say.
I got through most of my points. Like I said, it's not like a lot of people are hyping up as the best Batman movie. It's like it is a very good Batman movie, probably because it's a detective Batman movie instead of just a regular ninja Batman, which we're used to. And I do miss that. Like I miss Detective Batman, and now I'm starting to realize I kind of miss the cartoony elements of like the comic book Batman stories. Like I miss when Riddler had a cane and he just said riddles on the fly while talking to people. Or I miss when Joker had playing cards and would kill somebody while telling a joke. Or Penguin using an umbrella guns. Like I miss those things. I get those don't make sense for this movie, but I still kind of miss them.
Yeah, I get that. JSP said, I know I said this on other channels, but I'll say it again. Andy Serkis should have been Penguin. I mean, come on. Penguin is short, creepy, and likes to eat fish. Sound like another character anyone knows? I mean, yeah, but I don't
get
really
what he's trying to mean in that. What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't either, because when it comes to the characters in this movie, the actor, I'd say, was perfect as Penguin. He looked the part with the makeup. He had that classy vibe going for him, and he just really fit the character in every way. I'm not sure how they could have improved it.
Yeah, I think like what JSP's is bringing up is what happened in Batman Returns, because that's a version of Penguin that is also very accurate.
Yes,
this is a different iteration where you're not going to see him eating a raw fish with flipper hands.
Yeah, because this is obviously a more realistic / serious take on the Batman than something like that. Like, it's accurate, it's faithful, but not overly to the point that the general audience watching it are going to be like, no.
Yeah, Tim Burton, like, you can't give Tim Burton free reign because he will make it weird. It'll be cool and it'll be in his style, but it's gonna be weird.
Exactly. But yeah, if everyone said their points, I think that's it for this episode. What about you, Forgottenpharoh and Keizer?
Yeah, those are all my points.
Yeah, I'd say that's all about for me.
But overall, this is a great movie. Go out, see it. I had a really good time in the movie theater watching it. It's very well. It's accurate, while not to the point where it destroys any form of creativity the people involved had. The acting performances from everyone is all top notch. The story is engaging. It has an atmosphere to it. The music, it sounds like it came out of a horror movie, which I wasn't big on at first, but after thinking about it, I realized what it was going for, and that was the villains are afraid of Batman, so I really liked that. And the action was great. It was a nice blend of crime thriller, drama, and action, and overall, very good.
Yeah.
Carolee said, drama mystery needs all the time. Comedy / romance needs all the time. Comedy / romance, they're good at 1 hour and 1.5 hours. And he said, who played the Riddler?
Paul
I
Dano.
don't remember his name.
Huh? What, Keizer?
Paul Dano or something like that.
Yeah, Paul Dano. He did incredible as the Riddler.
Yeah.
But that said, definitely go out and see it if you haven't already. If you like Batman, check it out. It's great in every stretch of the imagination. I think if you enjoy the Nolan trilogy, which I know I compare it to a lot, but if I was to describe it, that's essentially what this is. It's a spiritual successor to the Nolan trilogy.
I wouldn't say that. I would say this has a completely different feel to it. Like the Nolan trilogy feels like Ninja Batman. This feels like New 52 Dark Knight Batman.
Yeah, and when it comes to that type of... I see what you mean, but the thing about the Nolan trilogy is it took that Batman and put a more realistic / detective approach on it, while this one, on the other hand... I
never got detective from the... What was it? Yeah, I never got detective feel from the Nolan trilogy, but, you know, if you feel that, I won't argue.
Yeah, I feel like this one saw that in The Dark Knight, and you're like, you know what? Let's take that detective aspect and one-up it. And they did good, I think. It's similar to the Nolan trilogy while also being its own thing. When I was watching The Riddler and essentially everyone else in the movie, it felt like characters... If they felt like characters that were cut from a Nolan script. And that's why this movie just stuck with me so well. So, yeah, it's not as good as the Dark Knight trilogy, but it sure as hell is a damn great movie nonetheless.
Agreed, yeah. So go watch it. It's fun.
Yeah, check it out. Really enjoyed every minute of it. I have a few criticisms towards it, but most movies I have criticisms towards. That's life. So check it out. If you like superhero movies, watch it. If you like detective movies, watch it. Just check it out. If you like
the movie 7, then you'll probably like this one.
Exactly. It's the overall something that I highly recommend. So make sure you have time to kill because it is long. It's a very long movie, but in my personal opinion, it was worth every minute.
Yeah. By all means, it's fun. I've got my ideas out.
Carolee said that Tim gave us an awesome movie. Ew. Oh, well, wait, I missed two things. She first said, what did he become? How did he become lame towards the end? What makes you think so? Curious. Oh, wait, I think she's talking to JSP. So my bad. She's talking to JSP. I was confused for a minute.
Okay.
But anyway, that was it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed it. Share it around and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications to keep up to date on all my future contents. Check us out on social media, especially join the Discord server. Lots of cool stuff going on in there. And overall, go support my buddies Keizerzilla and Forgottenpharoh. He doesn't have his own YouTube channel, Pharaoh doesn't, but he does have a business that he runs, his Instagram towards it. Check that out. Show him your support. What's it called, Pharaoh?
I don't have one.
Oh, you don't?
I just kind of function as myself, so.
Okay. I thought you had a business.
Nah. I got my own. I got another adult job that I just that's elsewhere.
Okay. So my mistake. Either way, just keep on watching Galactic Nerd Outpost if you want to see more of Pharaoh. Subscribe to Keizerzilla if you want to see more stuff from him, and just keep up to date on this channel. This is Gojin the Makai Phantom leaving the building.
Bye, y'all.